In the heart of the Amazon basin, a truly unique creature graces the treetops, the Opisthocomus Hoazin, commonly known as the Hoatzin. Join us on an enthralling journey into the world of this enigmatic bird, as we uncover its evolutionary history, ecological significance, and the challenges it confronts. Among avian oddities, perhaps none captures more mystery and intrigue than the Hoatzin of South America's Amazon basin. Often described as a living fossil due to reptilian characteristics unseen in other birds, questions surround its evolutionary past, taxonomic placement, and specialized adaptations allowing thriving in exclusively aquatic terrestrial transition zones. Yet the existing uncertainty little detracts from marvel at this unique species. As the sole member of its namesake genus Opisthocomus, the localized and endemic Hoatzin serves as a quintessential indicator of wetland forest integrity. Protecting the primitive Hoatzin thus equates directly to preserving the exceptional biodiversity found in its restricted niche. Evolutionary history. No consensus yet exists around definitive Hoatzin evolutionary origins. Initial morphological examinations during the 19th century aimed linking them to songbirds or cuckoos based on bills and weak musculature. Later fossil discoveries across Europe's Miocene-Rhone River formations suggested more ancient galliform ancestry given wing structures reminiscent of chicks or turkeys. Modern DNA analyses provide conflicting results, variously assigning them affiliations with turacos, ground cuckoos, or cranes. Recent recovered remains in Bolivia's Magdalena River Valley provide direct osteological evidence now indicating Hoatzins diverged in the late Eocene to early Miocene eras across Proto-South America when wing features suited for poor flight first evolved. Climate shifts gradually contracted habitable ranges, leaving ancestors isolated in preferred lacustrine and swamp forest niches, fine-tuning distinctive adaptations seen today. With no identified close relatives among contemporary neotropical fauna, Hoatzins appear to have followed a long independent evolutionary trajectory as relicts echoing distant eras. Some researchers suggest transient occurrence outside South America during prior geological epochs. But all age-old questions surrounding Opisthocomus origins remain obscured in history, with more research needed to confidently establish emergence. Aside from juvenile Hoatzins bearing intricate marbled brown and cream patterns across the body and wings, adults adopt largely olive-gray-hued plumage, likely serving camouflage while roosting within forest canopies overhanging oxbow lakes. A punk-like spiked blue-tipped yellow crest crowns their rounded heads, which showcase red eyes and blue facial skin unadorned by feathers besides thick buff-tan strips bordering the eyes like an avian mask. Their most unique feature, enlarged scaled claws tipping vestigial wings, proves instrumental in climbing branches and primitive flight between forest trees. These winged forelimbs still allow brief airborne movements powered mainly by legs in a seldom-seen progression termed wing-assisted incline running. An expansive crop with fermentation pouch facilitates digesting their folivore diet heavy in toxins, while elongated intestinal tracts exceeding body length houses symbiotic bacteria assisting the breakdown of cellulose most birds cannot process. Outsized sternums support massive pectoral muscles joined by a fusion of collarbones, likely adaptations that evolved strengthening wings for climbing and brief escape flights decades before modern wings took hold in ancestral lineages. Reproduction in Hoatzins follows typical avian patterns, with females responsible brooding 2 to 4 lightly speckled eggs over 25 days of incubation. Ecology. Centered exclusively across the tropical climates and swamp forests of the Amazon and Orinoco drainage basins in South America, Hoatzins play a unique niche, recycling the nutrient profile of their habitats as foregut fermenters, feeding heavily on leaves other vertebrates cannot digest. Over 50 identified tree species compose their herbivorous diet, notably Trema micrantha leaves, which alone makes up nearly 50% of foraging. By targeting plant growth infrastructure in seedlings and saplings, Hoatzins assist controlling undergrowth that would otherwise outcompete larger canopy trees dependent on sunlight access through the dense rainforest floors. In turn, nest construction done exclusively within tree canopies across wetland forest zones provides vital nutrient recycling via guano deposits to aquatic areas consistently flooded by seasonal rainfalls and thin soils. Most animals avoid targeting adult Hoatzins thanks to their foul smell and taste as a defense adaptation linked to their unusual digestion. Yet chicks and juveniles still regularly fall prey to hawks, eagles, possums and reptiles, once leaving nests until wings develop enough to evade attacks. Predation risks likely account for their unique collective nesting habits not seen in other birds, where offspring assemble in creches of up to 20 individuals watched over by select adults while parents spend extensive hours foraging. Survival rates to 1 year remain quite low, just 25% for hatchlings making it to maturity. Habitat and behavior. Hoatzins remain inextricably linked to Amazonian and Orinoco Basin swamp forests. They are specially adapted to exploit where no other obligate folivores reside. They specifically favor mangrove and riparian growth fringing slow-moving rivers, lakes and wetlands with reliable seasonal flooding that inhibits competing lifeforms less tolerant of saturated soils or aquatic surroundings. Dense vines and trees exclusively characterize habitats providing roosts, nesting and feeding sites, all ideally within close flying proximity, as Hoatzins frequently change perches clambering through branches on wing claws with beaks and tails aiding balance. Nearly all life activities cycle around rainfall-induced cycles between seasons. During the November to April rainy period, scattered groups amble slowly through canopy levels up to 100 feet high, making constant alarm calls as they deliberately forage young leaves, consuming up to 1.5 pounds daily, more than their own body weight. Heavy predation risks keep most family clusters limited to just 2 to 4 adults and 1 to 2 juveniles, who remain associated with parents across successive breeding attempts and habitat shifts over several years to gain survival skills and flock familiarity. Come the May to October dry interval, when floods recede and leaves grow bitter, hundreds merge together, roosting colonially at shared sites, with mate selection and breeding commencing to best utilize peak resources when fresh foliage and ideal nesting trees emerge. Elaborate displays by males then take place to impress potential mates and other rivals, using contrasting black feathers against bright skin on wings and facial wattles. Following pair bonding, constructed nests from sticks able to survive seasonal floods host the multiple eggs with shared incubation duties. Conclusion. While the bizarre Hoatzin has persevered as a species for millions of years thanks to its highly specialized rainforest wetland niche, its long-term survival grows increasingly tenuous in the face of profound habitat pressures across South America. As roads and industrial agriculture expand along the Amazon, absorbing or polluting freshwater ecosystems, Hoatzin numbers continue to decline at precipitous rates, now listed as a vulnerable species. But quantifying remaining populations remains exceptionally difficult given the dense flooded forests they inhabit. More conservation support and retention of protected swamp forest reserves are needed to offset losses, as Hoatzin disappearance serves as a key warning sign of deterioration in one of Earth's most diverse yet threatened wilderness regions. When Hoatzins can no longer call fragmented woodlands home, we risk losing far more of the Amazon's irreplaceable biodiversity heritage, key ecosystem services, undiscovered medicines, carbon sinks, and potentially hundreds of yet unknown organisms soon to follow in extinction if habitat connections are not maintained, protecting the Hoatzins' last sanctuaries.